fucking dying, man. I just clicked the live button, but it's
okay.
A couple of minutes.
Can you send the link to my page, or shall I do that?
Oh no, I can. I just tag it. It'll automatically go on the page.
Okay, and then
let me do
then.
that. Un momento, por favor.
Muy bien. Unos momentos después, un gran muchedumbre formado en el mercado.
Something about the method that you're using. What?
Yes, no, in the marketplace. Right. La familia Sanchez vive en una aldea a Ríos del Mar.
WTF to that. What was that?
Yeah, that was the Sanchez family live in a little village by the river or by the sea. Right.
The Sanchez family.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, my people got everywhere, didn't they? They're everywhere.
They did.
Who was I talking to? I was talking to somebody that. Here, I'm going to tag you. God, who was I talking to? I think it was a European country. And they were telling me about the Mexican cuisine they had. The people were from Jalisco or something. Okay, edit post.
Yeah.
And that would be Mr. to you.
Yeah, whatever.
Call me what. Don't say that.
Call me what you like. I don't care.
Joseph Delaney, Dr. Joe. Love to all.
Yes, indeed.
34 people in the house. I guess we're not playing an intro. How long has it been? 1:45. Whew. Okay. All right. I think it's time. Are you ready? I tagged you.
Yeah, I'm just going to post that onto, others. Oh, I can't.
Holy shit, man. The bird came. I have this bird that keeps coming in here during important times, which is not shocking, but with you here, I'm wondering why it's here.
Well, it's like you say, it's the lyre, not the blue avian influence.
The blue avian, yeah.
Yeah, because they speak to me and through me.
Did they really?
And and when I go into a real high-pitched tone that basically hits the crown of my head, all that stuff comes out, like almost like a cricket type thing, you see. Because I've been working on these light languages at various stages. I see it like a flute.
Oh, really?
And the deep one, the root, is more really deep. And then it sort of, it goes.
Yeah, I don't want to joke about light language.
Why not? Everything's light-hearted, and
that's true. It is a light language. Right.
Yeah.
We all have a light language.
I think people, when they talk about enlightenment, to me, enlightenment it means you feel lighter. You feel lighter.
Lighten. Yeah. Here we go with the etymology. The the whole point's right in front of our face.
Absolutely.
When you're looking for something, it's always in front of your face.
Just bear with me one moment while I pass this on to. Have you sent it to the light stream yet?
Yeah, it's on there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's on. Let's see. I just had to add a couple. Let me make sure. Well, you reminded me. Okay, it's on Starseeds, Light Stream, Infused Lights, and Soulogy. Why are we?
Should we put it onto the Freedom Network live?
Yes, we should.
I don't know whether. I never know whether we're allowed to do that on that one, but I'm going to put ha.
Yeah.
And send it there and post it, because I get told off all the time by that young woman, girl, person, whatever the correct political expression is in Brighton. And she's always picking. She's always picking on me for some reason. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I was a bad husband in a past life or something like that.
She's a perfect mirror for you. That's what it is. As we somebody just sent in. Okay, so this must mean we were on to something. What was the last thing said? Because we were 1,400 hours and 44 minutes. 1444. That's like a reference to the 144.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a tenuous link, as they call it. It's
That's
tenuous.
What I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
Because I think if you have 7 and 6, that's 13, and then you multiply 13 by 1080, right? You get like a big number, and that's sometimes very significant as well.
That's some powerful computations you just did there. Okay.
Yeah.
Hang on, let me see here. Let me get this.
How's Mr. Pinkleton anyway? Is he keeping well?
And she's so shy. She hates
Yeah, I
going
know.
on, but when she goes on, she certainly has no problem going into the buddy hacking mode. Okay, so we have man, we got a big week this week. This is technically the first show of the week. We got 1, 2. So we have Yvonnya in 6 hours. We have at 11 p.m., which will be 12, will be 4 a.m. in London. We have what's it called? The Soul Spizzle Shift Tizzle. It's me and Ryan. He's going to get his guitar out and his piano. And we got Sophie Gregory, Jeff Chrisman, Margot, Duncan Ribon, Beth Potts, Namoli Ben, who I met the other day, Brooklyn Rain, Shakara Tasha, Chrissy Fire Main, Franco Di Nicola, Susan Amar, Michael Mejia, and Franco Di Nicola are going to be on together next Friday, and Brian Gerard Schaefer. And next Friday at 11 p.m. London, 7 p.m. Eastern, which I believe is 9 a.m. in Sydney, Australia, we're going to have this Sisterhood Circle that Morgan downloaded. We got on a couple nights ago about. A lot of people have, I don't know how many people are going to be on it, but I'm going to put that announcement out the next day or two. And other than that, I can't think of anything else. that's
I think that you've said enough for now, to be honest with you. Because I'm your guest, you should be like listening to what I've got to say.
I thought you were still playing with your phone.
No, it just looked like that. Now listen, Todd.
Yes.
I do think it's about the resurgence and the re-emergence of the sacred feminine.
Oh,
not the sacred female, Todd. Not the sacred female. I have to make that point because there are some of us, right, who also are in male bodies who work or are worked by the sacred feminine. And I feel that very strongly. I feel that strongly. I'm seeing that more and more in the area that I live. I'm seeing it more and more with great, big, tough men, because I've worked a lot of time with bodybuilders, and they're basically falling apart, and this great, big heart is coming out of them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't know, were you doing that to your pecs then? You know, as if to say you're a bodybuilder, because Morgan told them that nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. That's like a sparrow leg implanted onto your arm.
It's the avian lineage, I'm telling you. I wish I'd have known about it.
You are sinewy, and can I say, just to take her words, you look pretty today. Listen, you see, when sensitives listen to anything, they always pick up everything in order that they can send it back if they get attacked later on. That's what sensitives do.
That's right. And they send it out without any proof that you could verify they sent it out, just in case it doesn't. Yeah.
Well, funnily enough, you should say that, because I I visited you last night. Did you feel it?
Dude, that was real. We didn't even talk about that much, but that was so crazy. And the crazy thing is, these things happen, and they usually happen when there's like something really big going on, and then they don't come back like to that degree. You know, if you think about it, for me anyway, and a lot of people I talk to, you know, like with the externalization of your aspects that are you, that speak to you or whatever, then they get embodied, so they're not around. And then sometimes they pop in, but these divine episodes, or whatever you want to call them, that are occurring, first of all, they're occurring more rapidly, and second of all, I'm just making the comment, they never seem to happen like day after day after day, but they are getting closer. But that was a very Wow, that was a trippy thing, man. That was very trippy.
I had a very clear dream last night, and I can still remember it. You know, when you get those spiritual in-colored dreams? Well, this was one of those.
Mm,
And in the dream, I was saying to a wise person,
that was
I
me.
was saying, yeah, it could have been. Yeah, it could have been. He had the limp, and one of his testicles was missing, but you probably you, yeah. And I said to him, I don't feel clean on the inside. This is true. This is true. I
Yeah.
said, I don't feel clean on the inside. He said, hang on a second. He said, I'll scan you. So he was scanning me, and it was taking a long time. And he had that like worried look on him, you know, and he was saying, you know, I can't find anything wrong. And I said, I'm telling you, I feel deeply, deeply dirty on the inside. Right.
Mm.
And he said, I don't know. He said, I'll have to go away and think about it and ask the others. And as he turned around, I saw in the soil like a sort of glistening metal sort of piece of metal, right? And I went over to it, uncovered it, and it was Saint Michael, you know, or Michael the Archangel, as clear as
Oh,
anything. And I blew this dust off, and then I see I'm getting a big thing up my spine talking about it now. I woke up with this thing in my hand, you know, like this thing from St. Michael. So it was obviously some sort of, you know, it's coming up in a big way now. In fact, I'm feeling sort of emotional talking about it. But yeah, it was almost like to say, son, you're doing a good job. Carry on. You're doing fine, you see. Because, Todd, I'm going to be honest with you. I never know whether it's me ego, whether it's spirit, whether it's me soul, whether it's aliens, whether it's archangels. I never know, mate. All I can do is I can just open my heart up, because I feel now that we've done most of the work. And this is what Franco was saying the other night, and I agree entirely with him. I think that the force is coming, it's through us now. It's just working through us to get hold of us and just to create with this energy. It's almost like a plasma that needs to be molded by us and spirit to create. And I put a thing up before. I said, I got this thing, put this up, Joe. There's a big thing going across the globe now saying build back better. Well, I got put build forward better, because it's all about not looking behind, not getting back to the way it used to be. Systems are totally disintegrating across the planet, and it's up to us now as a collective individuality. This is about people's individualness. It's about uniqueness. It's not about getting into a big herd again and all thinking in the same way. I think that spirit, right, is pushing us forward to saying, listen, you've been given a task. You've been given a mission. You've got your own talents, skills, abilities. These are innate in you. When you use them fully, you will feel the joy of living coming through you, and that will fill this spiritual hole that you've had all your life, because materialism will not fill that hole in the soul. It's only when you do God's purpose. I mean, I don't normally do God and religious, but it's only when you're living to full soul's purpose will you have that hole filled. Will you feel joyful, enthusiastic, hopeful, and everything? Christ, I feel like a preacher now, but it's just come out.
well,
Now.
that's good. This is Sunday, man. It's a Sunday, man. And maybe we start doing Sundays. Maybe we start doing Sundays.
And now the Partridge said, "Feel at Spiritu Tui Sancti."
Every time I hear that, I think of that old Cheech and Chong album.
I don't know that one.
The guy walks into he walks into the Pope. I think he walks into the Pope and he says, "Can you hear my confession?" And he, it's X-rated. I don't even know.
Okay, all right. It's like spectacles, testicles.
I would highly recommend it. The name of the album is "Up in Smoke" by Cheech and Chong. It's very funny. It's what is that? 50 years old now.
I might have a look at that.
I totally agree with everything you're saying, and it's it's so amazing. I mean, it's just freaking amazing. I mean, Morgan and I, to me, my ascension, my relationship and my experience, really since even before I met her, I guess for everybody, it just parallels what's happening collectively. And if I look at this calendar, she left. Today's the 25th, so she left basically 15 days ago. This last 15 days, and not because of what's been going on in my life. Most of what's been going on in my life has been off camera by myself, laying in bed. I was in bed 14 hours yesterday. I went to bed at 2 and I got up at 4, and it took me, and then I had to do 2 meetings. It took me 4 hours probably to get back on the planet.
Yeah.
And then by the time 8 or 9 hours up, you know, I couldn't stay up midnight. I was gone. And then today, and so I go to bed and I lay there till 4 o'clock in the morning. I messaged Morgan and said, I can't go to sleep. And we chatted for a second. And then I tried to go back to bed. I didn't go to sleep. It must have been 6:30, and I woke up at 9:30, and I feel great. I'm a little bit, I had to put some water in my face, but geez, I don't know. I can't make sense of any of it anymore.
I don't try anymore.
Pinky Toes is in the house. I just want to let you know. He's that's Bruce. And here comes my friend, the little birds. Man, I got birds coming in here like I'm Snow White.
Yeah.
What's up, bro? Yeah, they come in here at certain times. No, but it's like it's taken all the intellect out, and it's taken all the ego. Obviously, the ego's, and it's taken all these things out that we appraise. Hello, but that we appraise our life with. It's all the logic, all the rationale, everything just goes away, and it's not just you're being pushed. The past is out, the future's out, parallels are out. It's not just that part, like let's say the linear going to non-linear, or to being present. It's all the faculties that we have. It's the way we see, and the way we hear, and the way we communicate, and now the way we telepath, and our intuition. And it's like, how do you? And it's not a bad thing. It's just like, whoa, this is trippy. And then the old. When I say old, I don't mean bad. I just mean the familiar patterns and loops and behaviors from ourselves and behaviors from other people is so much more obvious now, which has nothing to do with people, has nothing to do with anything but me. And it's just kind of like points of context where we say, oh, I know what that is, and I'm not going there. I don't know where I'm going, but I'm not going back there, because every time I do, I'm getting messages that I no longer need to hear. So it's kind of like that. It's kind of like this thing with Morgan going to Australia. We felt the energy come in. We did what we've done many times. We went into solitude. We come back. She goes, I'm ready to talk. I'm like, okay. And she goes, you know what I'm going to say, don't you? I said, yes, of course I do. You know what I mean? So this is two people that are obviously very connected, but this is just a sign of what's coming for everybody, for all of us, with all of us. You can call it whatever you want, but you're talking about walking down the street, and I know this sounds weird, but this will be normal, and everything will fall in line proportionate to that new normal. Walking down the street, someone's passing you by, and you hear their thoughts, so to speak. So this is what we're walking into, and I'm finding it really interesting with you. Why does this always happen with you? We always go into places I don't know if I want to go, right? But what I'm finding interesting is that, okay, what have been substantial, sometimes dominant themes in the Lightworker Starseed platforms, in the disclosure, and even conspiracy, okay? The people that stick their heads in all three, or let's say this platform and maybe one or two of the other, I'm finding that they're not sticking over there. It's not sticking anymore. Even the platforms I keep my eye on just for information and how professional tips or whatever. I just try to see what people do and all that. It's not sticking anymore. So that's kind of interesting, because I've noticed it's one of many of these great, what do you call it, great divides, right? Where it's not like people are having to like point things out. It's just in your face, right? Which I guess goes back to what you said. You make a new choice.
I'm seeing it now, like sound and light. That's a big thing for me.
Yeah.
But I see that the sound is like a sonar. It's almost like my heart sends out a sonar, and then it comes back to me, and it's in the listening to the reflection that navigates me through life. And that's the way I'm avoiding obstacles. That's how I see it.
Yeah.
But also in the same process, as I'm getting better at it, well, it's not extrasensory perception, it's extra sensing perception. I think our clairsentience, clairvoyance, clairaudience, and all the clairs, right, are increasing, because as our frequencies increase, we expand more and more. I think what's happening is we're thinking quicker, but many people are still attaching emotionally to it, and therefore acting at the same pace as well. So there's too many tasks coming in and not enough time. So that's what causes a lot of confusion. So I think if you can learn through this breathing technique that I've learned, right, if you can learn to breathe in a certain way, you actually stop time, or you create more space. And more space and time go together. Obviously, that time-space continuum. The more space, the more you can regulate the information that's coming in from the various senses, and then you can see it more clearly then to know what's going on. So I think more than anything else it's the ability to feel when you've emotionally attached to something unconsciously, because you'll feel the tug. That's what a trigger is, if you like. And every time there's an emotional trigger, it's something to say, stop, take a step back, feel deeply, listen to the direction. And I think that's the way forward, is to basically stop now. Because I live on the principle for, by this time, we have ceased fighting anybody or anything. So the fighting stops, but the fighting to me is related to the fight or flight response that automatically comes in when we perceive a threat, whether it be consciously, but mostly unconsciously. How do we know we're perceiving a threat unconsciously?
Bingo. Dude, you got to stop right there, because that's like the most profound present intel, right? Like, okay, I'm just going to give you a quick example, then I want you to go on, because I think when we think about this fight thing, we think about something very loud, right? Like very, very much a collective kind of awareness is around it. So I had 2 shows last week. I want to say 2 in the last 10 or something like that. And one was feminine, one was masculine. And this isn't in no way a judgment, in no way anything. It was just simply what you're talking about. What did you say? Threat, right? When you're in a conversation, and this goes for me because I had to sit down with Todd after the show, but when you're in a conversation and there's not the same opinion, and in both these cases, it was a very cordial, well-mannered, there was a little bit of emotion came from the person I was talking to both times. But what it was an incongruence with a belief system, right? And I'm not, because I do this, right? Everyone has done this, where somebody's saying something and it doesn't gel with your belief system, your limited belief system. So that fight is what I'm trying to say is occurring on the front lines now. You know what I mean? People are standing up for their sovereignty. They're still shadowed. I'm still shadowed. They still have programs running, even if they're working on it every day. But you're right. We've done enough work. But what's occurring is people are standing in their sovereignty, and whether they're fully aligned, which none of us are, or they're 80% or 70%, they're standing in their sovereignty at that time, and they're saying no because they're saying yes to themselves, and it's creating an interesting kind of a part of our evolution. Go ahead.
Well, you mentioned evolution. Perfect word, because even the soul's got programs, right? That must be played out through the human ego. Now, I see that the human ego is the mind-body complex of the human being. The soul needs to go through that to get the feedback so that it can grow as well. So in order for individual souls, right, to grow, then they must have a program. You see, we go body, mind, soul, spirit. There's a difference between body, there's a difference between mind, there's a difference between soul, and then there's the spirit. And I think spirit is oceanic consciousness, right, which is the still point. It's the 0 point where there's no time and there's no space, because with space, right, must come polarity, mustn't it? right? And that's where time is created. When space is created and movement is created, we must be going from one point to another. And that's the bifurcation or the separation. But you know yourself, and most people on here will have had that point where time stood still, right? But what was left was pure awareness of everything. Right. And I think that that's what's happening, Todd, is more and more people, and I will expand on the breathing thing in a minute because someone's asked. But I think what I'm trying to say is it's perception of threat. Okay.
Yeah, I like
and when
that.
Okay. And so
I
it's not necessarily a real threat, it's just our perception.
No. It's a threat to, but it's a threat to your
belief system or your ego.
It's that, and you know the crazy thing is, okay, no matter what the issue is, and in both of these cases, and God bless them both, man. I mean, I'm saying this from my heart. In both cases, the points of contention had to do with the perception of negativity or evil or darkness, right? And so it's not even about who's right, because both are right, because no one's right. It's about the fact that you get a charge, and that charge is due to one thing: you're not open to because you are feeling threatened. And no, it's not like somebody put a gun to your head, but you're getting this energy coming at you, which is the same thing, okay, coming at you that you are going, oh, I'm not going to look at that. So this thing that you're describing to me is an indicator to me that I need to either sit down with myself and say, are you missing something? Are is there something that's making you uncomfortable about this person that you don't like? That's not normally the case. Or is it what they're saying? And have you really overly attached to what your belief system is? And are you resisting theirs? I mean, this thing we have what? We see 180 degrees, right? We see in front of us. We're in an environment where we're seeing all the way around us.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so we have these metaphors and all this stuff, and we've been saying this for 2 years. You and I have been talking that the most likely the biggest challenge, as far as I know, has been getting used to the new way of life. And
that to me is about, it's living absolutely in let go. Yeah. Of analysis, really. It's like, oh, that's the way that it is, carry on. That's the way that it is, carry on. And that's how my life is now. But don't get me wrong, of course I get triggered. But when I first started off on this process, the big ones, it was like bombs going off, poof, and my whole solar plexus had come out. And I think, what's that? What the effing hell's that? So you can pick up, can't you, that we're filled with anger to start with. That's a really coarse emotion. But as we go further and further into it, the emotional rebound or the sonar, right, it becomes less sort of intense, but you still need to listen to it because it's a reverberation from a finer dimension. So this is about refinement, really, to the point where we totally let go. Because in the end, if the soul completes its purpose here on this planet, I think then it lives totally in inspiration, and basically there's no triggering whatsoever, and I'm getting that more and more, where I've got a feeling of complete flow through and nothing bothers me. It's not that I don't care, because I do bloody care very, very deeply, but I just can't be asked most of the time engaging with negativity and engaging with gossip. I'm not interested, All I'm interested in really is, and this is where I see it, I keep getting a vision of a unicorn's horn. And it's almost like the spiral of the unicorn's horn is like an evolutionary spiral going to one pointedness, right? But the point about it is, Todd, is the sonar is directing things, but it's also, as more and more energy comes into here, this becomes more and more refined, so that you can go forward. So that's the way I'm seeing it.
And that's a good. Yeah,
I talk about this thing called chromatooptogenetics. I talk about that a lot. It was a word that was given to me to say, Joe, your future is in frequency medicine. The medicine of the future will be to do with vibrations. It will be to do more with medical physics than pharmacology. And don't get me wrong, and this is, I'm not fighting anybody or anything. There's some bloody good things in medicine, Todd, and there's also some bloody good things in pharmacology as well, right? Because my job is really to find a balance point of things that work for individual people. So I don't turn me back on anything. It's almost like I don't need a pendulum to douse. I just sort of send me heart out, get a feeling back. Is this right for this person? What about this? What about this? You know, and so that's how I work it. Do I ever make mistakes? All the time, because I'm still trying to refine more and more and more of this stuff.
Yeah, we all are. No, I think that's a great point. I think the sound and frequency, sound, vibration, color. I mean, this is where we came from, and it's not that some of these things that we've created aren't. Everything is the same God particle. So, I mean, it's in terms of our evolution. Let's just say some things that got us here we don't need anymore. I mean. But you know, going back to what you were saying about the you know, this whole new existence that's coming into play. Like one of the things to me that seems very obvious is that there is whatever that is, that third energy, whatever you want to call it, is supporting us hugely. It's not it's not rocket science. B, there's like, say, 5 or 7 rules of the road, such as stay in your own lane. Things that can only continue to perpetuate. I'm talking about the things we would do up until this point of these, say, 5, 6, 7 rules of the road that apply to everybody. The only way that things and the way that happens is we come home with, like, say, the narcissistic empath relationship. In other words, it's a very narcissistic thing that we all have had, which is okay for me to you. Are you there?
I am. Are you? It's yeah. Is it me or is it you?
No. It was on my end. It was on my end. So all I was trying to say is that you know, we are becoming, we are being, I would say, we are being divine. I mean, and again, past the analysis thing, we're actually being divine. We're conducting ourselves in a more divine way. I mean, there's a lot of ways to put it, and I think this is, to me, the huge thing that we're missing, because it's all tied together, and that is the self-awareness and self-accept, everything that we've dealt with out here: acceptance, allowance, integration, respect, honor, but for ourselves. And it's not like it used to be, because we can actually see ourselves connected to the magic. We can see how it works. We can see the connectivity. And I think that's what we're stepping into. And I think there are people, and I think the time is ripe where there are people, and you know, people are talking about coming together like Soulogy Fest or online and different things like this. I think it's starting to really, you know, kind of like when you start a fire, you know, starting to spark. And I think once they start to flame, it's going to be like an exponential type of thing that we haven't experienced before. But we'll be able to handle it because we'll be at a point where we've accepted ourselves enough to the magic in ourselves. Because the human part of this whole thing is the gift to the universe. It really is. It's the intel that they're gaining from us that they can't get, just like we've had to get from them what we couldn't get ourselves, right?
I think that this great big wave that's coming through is driven by a feminine urge, if you like. It's a feminine one. And what it's doing is it's actually pushing the soul, right? It's almost like knocking on the back of the soul to say, time for you to get in now, right? And the soul's knocking on the human body to say, okay, I've been knocking here for ages now. I'm going to knock harder and smack you on the top of the head to say, surrender, will you? I'm coming in whether you like it or not. And then you can say to the soul, well, hang on, why? because I'm getting pushed, you know. So the soul's being pushed, right, by this great big, massive feminine input. And it's a resurgence of, it's what's called trophotropic. There's the technical word, and it means nurturing and compassionate. So that's what's happening. This rebalancing energy is coming in. It's sweeping the planet. It's causing Mother Earth to vibrate and increase her frequency. Because we're on the planet, you know, we're picking that up as well. So it's about surrender, but it's about surrendering to win. Surrendering doesn't mean giving up, does it? You know, it doesn't mean giving in or giving up. It means, okay, you're bigger than me. I know that you're me really, but I'm going to try and take a lead from you. There's that sonar thing. So it comes in, Todd, and that becomes embodiment. But there's more after embodiment, because the soul has got to work through a much more open heart to actually start radiating then. And that's when all this attraction comes in. I just want to talk about the connection between the pineal gland and the pituitary gland. It's almost now like the chakras 6 and 7 are combining with one another, because the pituitary gland is called the master gland, but the pineal gland sits above it, right? And it's the pineal gland that's part of something called chronobiology. It's the timekeeper. You know, and I get a picture in my head like it's like a crown of thorns that's turned upside down into a crown of crowns. And it's almost now like it can turn round now and tune into different dimensions. And then the information's coming in. And what actually happens is, and I've read this and I've experienced it myself, there's almost like a fluid that's falling down from the crown. It's like a milky substance. And as it comes down, this is the land of milk and honey. I've got no idea what I'm talking about here, but I'm going to talk about it anyway. So there's a flowing that's coming down, and people are starting to detect like a sweet feeling that's trickling down their neck. And some people believe it's this nectar, if you like, that's coming down, cleansing, and it's actually revitalizing and softening the heart so it opens up. So there's all that stuff that's going on. Not only that, Todd, not only that. The information from the central sun, not our solar system, but the central sun is plowing out more energy that's actually causing pulsatile waveforms of plasma to come in and also impact. So the electromagnetic frequencies are impacting with the water in our bodies. pHs are changing, the cell membrane permeability is changing, and it's opening up this new light body. It's opening up our DNA to express itself at the prime frequency. I've worked that out, mate. I've got no idea what I've just said there. Give us a clue.
Hey, that's a great what do you say? The scientific explanation that's very understandable. You know, it's not even scientific. Say spirit scientific, but that's it. Yeah, very easy to understand, and also a very good general overview of everything. Because every little piece that you talked about, you see somebody or bodies that would validate that in this present moment. You know, with the stuff they're getting or putting out. But the thing that I think is coming into play more and more is the body, because like everything you described, we kind of got, you know, we saw it coming central, you know what I mean? Over the years and this and that and this and that. And now it's become a very, very much a body thing, not just the body, just the physical body, but the things that go with it, like say even the mind and you know what I mean? Brain, whatever. But the body, this is something that people, look, how many people, I know there's been a situation with this COVID-19 for what, 16 months, 15 months. But man, you know, and I've known people that have transitioned, you know, that's what's been the, you know, the standard line. But I haven't known a lot of people. It's not like people are getting sick like they used to. And then people not going to the hospital, not going to the doctor, more people doing this type of, you know, doing energy, going to an energy practitioner. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff going on. There's a lot of stuff going on that we talk about in these types of communities that get no press at all. And so this is a big deal to me, because I don't see any major platform really talking about it. I'd love to see like we talked a little bit to David Icke about it. He didn't elaborate much, or like Robert Sepper, or just so many different people to pull on the stage and say, you're very well read, well studied, you're a PhD, you're a doctor, whatever the case is, and you've got a body of work. What about all these people that are experiencing all of these things? Did you know about that? What do you think about that? How can they all be fucking crazy? How can they all be imagining something, right? What is going on? And I think that where that's really going to be driven home is going to be because of the changes in the body. But you would know more about that. So, like, how do you explain, or can we explain, as a someone from where your background, is there evidence that the body's changing? Do you see it in your with your colleagues? Whatever part of the scientific or medical world they're in, are they talking about it? Is there anything out there in the world, in your circles that you're going, oh, they're picking up on it? Oh, are you seeing anything like that?
Yeah, what I'm seeing, Todd, is they're disintegrating now because they can't let go of their intellectual knowledge, because the answer isn't in intellect, it's in intuition and inspiration. I don't try and pass this message on to anybody else anymore. It's a waste of my time and a waste of my breath. I've tried to, Todd. It's only when people get to a rock bottom, and I see a rock bottom as the ceiling to the next dimension. So I see it as a positive thing. It's when they're desperate and they reach out. So what I see is that spirit is working on people's psychology. Their psychology is becoming more and more disturbed, and therefore they're more emotionally disturbed, right? And then they'll go to all the medical treatments to try and do something about this, which won't work, right? And then they'll come to that jumping off point where they say, look, I've tried all this stuff. Have you got any ideas? Because I know that you've been there. And I'll say to them, just put your hand on your heart like that, tap like that, right? Find a bloody deep, comforting, gentle, compassionate feeling for yourself and breathe it in, right? And breathe it out. And they go, oh, he's mad him. And then I'll say, the Chinese have done this for a long time. That's called Tai Chi. They've used Qigong techniques. In yoga, they talk about all this. And then what happens then is some of them who have had enough will try something different. Okay. And there's loads of people now who are going on detoxification diets, like they're juicing, they're doing all these sorts of things to try and purge out all this stuff, this crap that's gone before. They're paying more attention to sick building syndrome, where there's lots of electromagnetic energy build up as well. They're taking up exercise. They're understanding the need as well to take in clean water. So yes, Todd, it is happening, but I don't bring in the spirituality angle anymore.
No, but I mean, are you picking up just through their stories and observing, or even changes in the collective field of these circles, or even the people? Are you seeing, without your input, without anyone's input, are you seeing?
Yeah, I'm watching it, Todd. I'm watching them falling apart, right? And sometimes I'll just go in and give them a bit of a nudge, because I get the push to do that, right? But I am seeing a collective change in people where they've come to the end of their thinking. They've come to the end of their understanding, and they're looking for something totally different. And that means they'll have to come out of their limited box of intellectuality, and they'll have to start looking. And that's why mindfulness, I teach people mindfulness, but it's not really mindfulness. It's actually heartfulness, right? So because their heads are battered, they just say, I can't think anymore, so they're battered. So I say, well, here's a little technique that will help you to drain that and give you some space in your head for a bit. And for anybody who's asked before, it really is this. It's just put your hand where you feel the center of your heart is, and then just bring a picture into your mind that brings with it a feeling of care or love. I have a little joke, and I say, if you've got a favorite grandchild or child, bring their face into your mind, have them smiling at you, and then that will bring a lovely feeling. Then you can dismiss the kid, then keep hold of the feeling and breathe that feeling in and out. And you breathe the in breath with the feeling is for 5 seconds, and the out breaths for 5 seconds. Now, if you can't do that, so what you're basically doing is you're breathing this feeling of love into your heart. Todd, there's been studies that show that ECG or EKG in the States.
EKG.
Yeah, EKG and EEG, electroencephalogram, they start to go into what's called coherence with one another.
So so one is the brain, one is the heart. Is that how it works?
So the heart is the EKG, and when you get into this resonant frequency, what actually happens is brain waves change. It drops down from the frantic beta brainwave state and it goes into an alpha theta state. Now, the alpha theta state is the midpoint. And what happens, Todd, is the mind opens, right? It opens and new information comes in. And that information is being fed not by knowledge and memory, because that's where we're up to. That's why we don't need memory anymore. The knowledge will come from the next dimension of consciousness, right? And that's what we're doing. We're opening the heart to open the mind, expand consciousness, and allow more quantum stuff to come in. And that's when people have to learn then to keep in their heart. So the heart is basically the processor of the information. It's the master, really. You know, it's the Christ-centered. It's whatever you want to call it. So all I'm saying to people is, it's honestly that simple, where you take a step back, find a nice quiet place, tap on your heart, and develop a relationship with your heart. Now, what I do is I use my left ear and I listen into my heart. That's how I feel it. And the most important thing is to focus on feelings first. Because most of my life, Todd, I didn't know what feelings were as such. I used to not know how to act in certain situations. So I would look at your face. I would then conjure up a thought in my mind that would bring a feeling with it. That's called sentimentality. That's when you're thinking a feeling and it's not genuine. That's basically the root of all our problems. Is we've made up feelings with our head that weren't genuine. Genuine feelings, Todd, come from the heart. You don't have to make them up, you know, and when they come in, you can't think your way out of them, really. You know, you can try and block them. I don't know whether that's making any sense, but that's what I've learned about myself.
No, I was just going to make a funny comment, but
yeah,
it was too.
Was it to do with naked bodies, Todd?
Oh. You're worse than Morgan. No, I didn't want to. I didn't want to interfere in that. That was, but you made me laugh, but it was no that. Yeah, you know, this whole thing with the silence and the stillness, you know, it's not just when we're with ourselves. It's actually happening when we connect. It's becoming more prominent, and as energy is becoming energy, telepathy, intuition are becoming the dominant threads of our communication, right? Of the give and receive. And the other thing I want to say too, I love this. I don't know if it's really a metaphor, analogy, or it's actually literal. And that is this whole thing where you're talking about the push, right? Like, without going into the history that I observed over the last few years, there is a real push now. And it's not like a push like, you know, it's not like a push like, hey, you better do this or you're gonna. It's not like that. I mean, there's a reason I've been purging, you know, for probably half of the last 30 days. And you were talking about it, waking up the way, you know, this is purging we're doing. And that comes in all different ways. Somebody said, what about inflammation? That's got to be blockages. I mean, we're breaking this down. We're either buying it and drinking the Kool-Aid or we're not. And I think we wouldn't be here if we were not doing it. So, you know, this push tells me, and I believe it's, and I'm just saying this is my own personal past and my experience and wherewithal at this point. But if I look at Morgan, Jason Estes, Franco, Sandra Walter, and 2 or 3 other very credible people, we're looking at May being huge. We're looking at this 555. We're looking at a solstice coming. I'm sorry, a full moon eclipse. There's going to be a solstice coming. I mean, there's some powerful momentum happening right now. And for a long time, people said, I've been told one day we're going to be put to work. I've heard a lot of people say that. I think that time really is now. And this we're really being pushed at this point. And the other thing that I haven't really ever felt before, and I don't know, I mentioned this to a couple of people, but yeah, there's that soul push, which I would just consider my higher self. But there's this other push, this galactic push. Like, what the hell is that? Like, it's like really loud. Like, I'm not imagining this. This is me talking to myself. I told Morgan last night, this room just filled up with Syrians. I don't know what's going on here. She's, but she's an ET. I'm not, right? And so there's this real, I don't know, it's a combination of, and I think a lot of people talked about this, whether it's galactic or not. Our support team has gotten bigger, but this is kind of allowed, hey, this is the second half. Like, you clicked, our vibrations of communion got to you. There's enough of you on now. Now follow through on this end of, maybe it's, say, human galactic higher self or something like that. This end of the triad. Follow through. It's like a baton being passed to the next relay runner. And the human free will aligning with, those two elements. But I don't know. To me, that's been like the last 2 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. I felt that. I can't make sense of it.
Well, I think you're right, mate. And I think it goes gross, subtle, causal, and then non-dual. I think that's ascension, right? And ascension to me is, I don't see that we go anywhere. We're just taking coats off, right? Yeah. That are just, so it's like we are sort of increasing in vibration, if you like, or frequency, but it's not us that's doing that. We just need to get out of the way to be done to. I just want to say another thing as well. I think that it should be called transcension. You see, because I think that we need to transcend former sort of vibrations, but to also include them as well, because there's gifts. There's gifts in those lower vibrations, and I think that some of us, and I think I'm one of them, and I think with your past as well, that you are, that we can go into any situation and remain relatively calm to be helpful, because I think, for a while, I was in this like bliss state for about 9 months where I thought I transcended everything. Nothing could touch me and all that. And then after 9 months, I got lowered right back down to earth to say, right, now the work starts, you see. So I think transcend. And the other thing is about predictions is I don't do predictions. I just do one single day because, predictions can bring in false hope or false fear as well. In my mind, I'm only talking about me. The other thing that's coming to me is we all see partial truth. We all see partial truth. So the truth is really about sharing honest views, if you like, which will give all of us a different and a bigger perspective and a different picture. So that's why shows like this are really important. If we can just get over ourselves and just be honest about what's coming up, I think more than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is it. This is real time. I mean, you're the people that I interact with, the ones that are the most powerful to me are the ones that are just who they are. You know what I mean? I had some lady on last week with the accent. I can't remember her name. She said the F-bomb a few times. She took a couple of drags off a cigarette. She's very lit, very honest, very raw, and very real. And I'm like, wow, that's the gift to the universe. That's the gift. So as we get broken down, it's like as we get broken down with each degree, we're actually getting built up. And this is what I was referring to a while ago, was this human energetic wave of expression that's starting to be more in alignment and less conditioned, less programmed, breaking the loops of the old cycles. No, it's like that passage, and you would know this, the passage in the what is it, Corinthians 14? What love is. Love is not this, and love doesn't need attention. It's that type of energy. It's like it doesn't need to say anything. So it doesn't. And this is that stillness, the space that I think is becoming more prevalent. Obviously, it's happened to the vast majority of the world for the first time, and this is over the last 15 months. Because of quarantine, you had more people going into solitude. And even if they were at home with their family, I bet you there was a good part of the time they were in their room by themselves because they were getting sick of the people they were with because everything's coming up. But I mean, if you think about it energetically and coming off of 10, 12 years of the fastest technological advance we've ever had, which our energetics move the same way, meaning our ability to receive information, the capacity keeps increasing, increasing, increasing like a baby. We're able to process it, put it back out. So the whole consciousness is becoming more active and more expanded. So you have that. And then at the tail end of that thing, all of a sudden you get slammed with a quarantine and everybody's back to the Maharaji mode, right?
Yeah.
So there's this self-introspection that's occurred. And to me, that's the root of this acceleration we're going through now, and really kind of a glimpse into our potential, because people are starting to get it. They're starting to get it within themselves. And man, I'm with you. Predictions, I wouldn't say what I would refer to, like what I was referring to, was more prediction, more of an energy. But yes, there is some forecasting in these things. But to me, they're just like a fortune, and you hear it today, and tomorrow everything changes. But it sure feels to me, I'm just saying, in my bones, it feels like end of May, because the last week of May has been the most powerful week since 2009 every year for me. In the early years, it was not good, but it was extreme, and the same as you've gone since 2014. And I feel like we're jumping off the cliff now. I really do. I feel like that we're going to see some extraordinary things by individuals that won't be able, that the awareness of them won't be able to be suppressed. It's just going to be, you know what I mean? It's going to be, I really feel like we're going to see that. And once one person starts doing one thing, then it just starts to explode. I really feel like that's what we're on the cusp of.
No, I do, Todd. I'm just sort of saying that what I've learned is not to look too far ahead. For me, I'm only talking about me, because what happens then is, if it doesn't, this is the danger of expectations, really, because expectare means to look outward or look forward, right? And there's also an element of false hope in now. And I know loads of people who are hoping. It's like, I look at the American situation a lot, and there's a lot of Americans who are just biding their time. See, that's a little joke. Right, waiting for the Trump card to be played. But that's again, to me, that's like that bipolarity or the duality, where people are still looking for an external savior to come and help them. I mean, obviously, if situations change out there, but absolutely. Can I just say something? Somebody mentioned about inflammation. This is what I know about inflammation. The central tenet of alternative and integrative medicine is that any pain or disease is a blockage or an obstruction to the free flow of vital energy. Okay, vital energy is the spiritual self. So they're quite right. The obstruction brings in inflammation. The inflammation then brings in cell changes at the point of obstruction, because there's more energy at that point. So the cells that are being bombarded by the extra energy will start to protect themselves. Right. So that's why sometimes cancer cells and malignant cells are much more effective, because they're stronger, because they're trying to protect themselves. Do you see what I mean? So the whole point about it is, if you become acutely sensitive and aware of the body, and when you feel a pain or a tug or something like that, it's almost like you can ask your intuition or your innate intelligence. You can say, what is it, please, that you're trying to show me? But it takes a lot for the human ego or the intellect to say that to their body, because you've basically got to get over yourself, haven't you? To realize that your innate intelligence is far, far, far more intelligent than your limited human ego. Right. So really, again, it's surrendering to something that's much more intelligent than you, that it's just waiting to be asked, will you show me, please? Now, I'm not a religious person at all. I mean, I think religions cause more, and this is just me talk, religions cause more obstructions, right? What they don't want is, they don't want individuals to go inwards and to sort of develop a consciousness and a conversation with their deepest self. because I honestly believe, Todd, each individual soul is responsible for stopping to look outwards and start to look inwards, because that's where the key and the solution to all their problems lays. I'm like a preacher today, but I know when I'm on one, I have to just keep going
You
until
got
it
to
all
do it,
comes out.
man. You got to do what you got to do. You got to do what you
And
got to do.
that's, I'm only talking about from my personal experience, but it just feels like it's pouring out,
Yeah.
And how do we get into it? We just sit down, tap on our heart, bring a loving, caring feeling in, breathe that breathing in, and then say, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Will you help me, please?
Yeah.
And I think it's that step in humility that opens the gates to a better future. And the other thing I got is, because the quality of life depends on the quality of light. There we are.
Enlivenment. Hey,
Yeah.
but you know what you said about the body. So the body's the last to come on. The human's the last to come on. So the human is the alpha and the omega. The
Yeah.
human is the origin of this particular trip we're on, this realm, right? I mean, the realm's not complete without the human. The human is the child of Mother Earth. Every planet has a species, right? I mean, and so it's the alpha and the omega, because now we're the last ones coming on. Like, we're the low species or the low dimension on the totem pole.
Yeah.
And what the thing is alpha is omega, right? So here we are, we're all brought to this party by the god, the goddess, the source, the essences, the galactic angelics, whatever dragons, whatever it is, whatever they are, just straight clairsentience, whatever it is, got us. And we look at it and we're in awe. We have to get to a point where we don't hold it on a pedestal. You know, that's part of what we've been through. And we come to this place where we start to realize more and more what it is. And then you look at yourself, right? And you start to realize this body is the same thing, right? So I can just talk to this body. It's true. I can actually talk to this body and it will tell me, which is what you're saying. But what I'm trying to say is, I think part of what we're getting to is understanding that it's the same thing. If Jesus appeared to me in the trees 10 years ago, that is the same thing as talking to my body as I've been working on certain things in the recent past. And you know, and the other thing I realized too about some of the perceptions we had, or what we have to do, get this certificate or get this or do that or read this or hear that, that it's not so much about our belief systems in a method or a process or modality or a way of life or whatever. It's more about a belief system in ourselves, right? And so there's a direct relationship, almost like a symbiotic relationship, between how I engage my physical, biological Merkaba and how I look at myself. In other words, the more I engage myself at the core, and to me, the body is the perfect. You can't get any more dense. You can't get any more concentrated than the body. And I'll tell you another thing I noticed when I was speaking earlier about this, the Holy Spirit, the third energy, whatever you want to call it, it's assisting us, and I'm watching things drop away very quickly, and not out of, you know, oh, I got to stop doing this, or I got to stop eating that, or smoking this, or drinking. You know what I mean? It's not like that. It just doesn't work anymore. I juiced for 3 days. I had to take yesterday off because the purging was so intense. I thought, well, this would be going on anyway, but not to this degree. I need a break. And I'm not talking about, you know, normal body functions here. I'm talking about purging body wide, by pore, cell by cell. So yeah, this thing about the body, there's a reason it says, what's the thing in the Christianity? The body is your temple.
Yeah.
The body is the temple. It's the house of God. It's the house of the goddess. You know, I mean, this is true. So, and what more proof do we need to understand that we're integrating, you know, masculine, feminine, physical, non-physical, and that the human is the focal point. So it's quite fascinating. And then to hear what you're talking about, these things that are, it's beyond holistic. It's beyond oral history or oral tradition. This is how we took care of ourselves 10,000 years ago.
Yeah.
You just put your hand on your heart, or put your hand on someone else's heart, or whatever the case is. The whole outlook was different.
I can understand how they devoted themselves to the sun, you know, Ra and Ray and all that sort of stuff, because they understood that it wasn't just heat and light, it was actually how it was impacting upon them, you know. And somebody asked about the gate, you know, the way I see it is the heart, it's got gates, right? And if we can sink deep enough, the gates opened and then the soul comes through, because I think it's the heart of hearts that's important. But we need to, first of all, stop the gates closing over. And when we're initially sensitive, any perception of threat comes in to close the gate. It's a bit like an anemone in the water, you know, with an anemone, and it's sort of floating about. But if it feels that any threat comes in, it goes roof, and it sucks itself back into its shell quickly. I think we have to get used to that. You know, there's so many different things, really. But yeah, the human is the hero, Todd. I mean, like you've always said, the human is the hero. And this is about something called spiritualization of the flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And the ancient Chinese have known this. The Taoists have known this for a long time. It's basically about sort of crystallization of the flesh. It's a change in frequency, which brings a chemical change, which brings in a more antenna-like structure to be able to pick up more information from more places. So everything's happening, you know, it's marvelous, you know. And I don't know whether there's any evidence yet of us moving from a carbon-based to a silicon-based system, which will be a crystallization as such, you know. But I do believe there are nefarious organizations who would try anything at all, right, to stop basically using electromagnetic energies to try and obstruct this process, you know. And I think that, you know, we need that. All these technological tools can be used either for good purpose or not good purpose, you know. And that's something that people have to sit with their hearts and say again, what's the right way for me to go forward? Todd, what I do is, as part of my job in my professional life, I'm a clinical and medical senior research fellow. And what I do is I analyze and critique medical papers, you know. And of late, in the last 15 months, I've seen science deteriorate into something called sloppy science now. And therefore, you know, it's very, very difficult, right? How do I make my decisions? I make my decisions now based upon the way I feel in my heart. That's where true discernment and discrimination comes for me. And I think that more and more people are becoming more and more aware earlier on about the bullshit that's going on in the world, you know. And I think that that's one of the greatest gifts is you can smell it a bloody mile off. And if there was clairsmellians, right,
clairsmellians.
well, clairsmellians, yeah, because that olfactory bulb, you know, the cranial nerve, that is the most sensitive of these things, you know. The sense of smell, Todd, you can pick it up a mile away. So if something smells fishy and the numbers don't add up, take a step back, sink into your heart, send out the sonar and say, can you guide me to the next action? Final thing, because I know I'm on one tonight. When I say, for by this time we've ceased fighting anybody or anything, I don't mean that the action doesn't take place, but it's not a reaction. It's a considered action on how to go forward based upon heart-centric sort of information, you know. So, of course, we need to take action, but not as a fight. Sometimes we might need to punch with love in defensiveness, but we mustn't be attacking anymore. I don't feel, when I say we, I know that I shouldn't be attacking, but it doesn't mean to say that I can't defend myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Sorry for going on, mate.
Is no, man, this is all good. I noticed a couple of videos in the last couple of days, and I'm pretty sure it was London, but I find it kind of interesting because of the level of whatever suppression or restriction or whatever you want to call it. But also over the months, watching the people push back over there is kind of interesting. You know, you think, oh my God, they're in this matrix, heavy laden matrix environment, and they're just sheep. Not that I'm not saying people say that, but you would think that, as things go, of course, everything's changed in the last 15 months. But and I mentioned before, I saw something a few months ago where it was actually quite humorous in Liverpool. But my question is, are you, because we can't see anything going on. Like y'all can't really see anything going on over here. Nothing gets reported. But are people pushing back? Are they gathering over there? Is that stuff happening?
Yeah, in London yesterday, there was something somewhere between maybe 500,000 people marching through the streets of London.
Are
Right?
you
Yeah, honestly, I mean, there's loads of videos over this side here because, I'm on Telegram, right? And, there's loads and loads and loads of videos there showing the truth about things. And the mainstream media are playing it down for all various reasons. And Todd, I don't get involved in that really.
I'm just curious.
Yeah, I'm an observer, but some people are saying there was probably about 1 million people. Well, all I could say is there were hundreds of thousands of people walking peacefully through the streets of London yesterday. They were singing, they were dancing, they were carrying placards. There was people from all colours, all shapes, all sizes, all sorts of, denominations, all working together to say, hang on a second, something's got to change here now. And, the mainstream media, like the BBC, suggested
they might. Now.
Yeah, they might have been. Yeah, the BBC said there was between 1,000 and 2,000 people. Todd, that is a plain lie.
Well, this is a great indicator. So I Google London demonstrations this weekend on Google. I could go to another one, but I just want to see. So if you if you look at this, it shows June 20th, 2020. UK anti-lockdown 1 month ago, another 1 month ago, and the BBC. And what I'm trying to say is they're not showing anything, nothing.
No,
which tells you,
yeah, there's lots of reasons for that, as we know. But the whole thing about it is, right, I'm a truthful person. I don't make my mind up until something sits right with me. I look at all this medical information. Some of it doesn't sit right with me at all, right? And people say to me, well, what are you going to do? And I say to them, I'm going to wait until it sits perfectly in balance, and then I'll make a decision. Because, Todd, I don't choose anymore when I'm not in a place of stillness. I just don't, because it always leads to like a false economy where I've got to put things right later on, you see. So my intuition never lets me down if I sit there long enough and wait for the quietness to come in. That's where I'm up to, Do I make mistakes? Yes, of course I do. I haven't got this cracked. I don't think anybody has, but it's all about living and learning and taking risks. And that's where I'm up to.
Well, I was just curious to know, again, looking for signs, not that I'm going to appraise but it's just interesting. Like at some point, there's got to be enough energy being, expressed, especially if it's congealing, like in a case like that, or even through stuff like this. There's got to be a point where it crosses over, where it becomes a larger force than this stuff that and you're right, the stuff that's being deconstructed, it's just falling on its face. I mean, and I also want to say too, like that comment you made about the people that were biding their time, and again, I know your sentiments were non-political, mine are non-political too, but I was kind of laughing when you said that, because I happened to run across a platform last night that I hadn't seen in 3 or 4 weeks because I got tired of watching it because nothing's sticking, right? Like even for the point of just professional, like how do they do this or do that? I just didn't watch it, but I was amazed last night. There are definitely people tuning in. Don't get me wrong, but the level of narrative or the level of what's being the substance or lack thereof is just like doesn't make any sense. I mean, it's beyond a savior program mentality. It's like you can see that no matter, and we've all been there. When you get to a certain point, you get an epiphany, a revelation. You're like, God, I was stupid. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's that aha moment. And I think a lot of people, one way or the other, getting to this point this past 15 months because they're choosing themselves. And some of us may be conscious and some of us may be unconscious, but it's definitely going down. So it's a great thing to hear. And somebody else put that it was happening in Germany and another country as well. So, and that's one thing you got to say about Europe. Europe has always been, you know what I mean? It's got like that ethnicity and that culture and that history. Not that America does it in the other parts of the world, but it's always seemed to be on the front end of a revolution or cultural change. And so to hear that it's happening in, because there's a much more, it's much less, in my opinion anyway, less homogenous over there than it is over here. Yeah, we have 50 states and every state's different, but there's a lot more of a homogenous aspect. Europe is they're all unique. They're all standalones. And even though they got the EU committee, whatever that thing is, EU, but yeah, so that's a good sign. That's a really good sign to me.
Two things to my mind. Mm-hmm. To me, this is it's about me being allowed to have all the information presented to me, all of it. And for me, my dignity depends upon me having all the information and making a choice without being influenced or coerced, right? And then, Todd, it's to be able to accept the consequences of those choices as well. That's what I think true freedom is. It's that I take responsibility for the choices that I make based upon the level of my consciousness. That's the first thing. The other thing is, I can't remember what the other thing was.
That's okay. It'll come back.
Okay, but that's where I'm up to. I'm not trying to cause any trouble. I'm just explaining where I'm up to. And people say to me, well, what will you do if this happens? I don't know because I haven't got there yet. The context might have changed totally. So I don't know. Well, give us a clue. I haven't got an effing clue. I don't know. I don't know. Well, what should I do? Ask your heart. Don't put it on me, because people used to come to me, oh, you've got these qualifications, you've done this, you've done that. And I now know I have to say to them, I'll show you how to get in touch with your own intuition. Because if I tell you what to do and it goes wrong, guess who you're going to blame? Me. So on your bike, right, that means F off, go and sit down quietly somewhere, find a church, because there's nobody in churches these days, and sit there quietly and have a word with your heart, right, and see what that comes up with. Ask for some inspiration or intuition or a bit of a push, right, to take you on the path of correctness or whatever.
So like, I mean, if you look at like when we first met 2 years ago and just the whole environment, I mean, and then you look at what's going on now, and let's just take ourselves out of this community. I mean, even what you're looking at out there, I guess what I'm trying to say is this: whatever's being tried, let's just put it that way, is only getting worse and worse. It's almost like digging a hole deeper and deeper. And the other side of that's going to be the cap will not be able to be, the cap will not stay on. It's going to blow like a pot boiling on a stove, right? No, and it's going to parallel our own thing that I was talking about earlier, where these things that people are doing on an individual basis and in relationships and in groups, these exhibitions, if you will, of supernatural, high sensory type of the behavior and connections and creations and magic and alchemy and all that. All of this is going to happen at the same time, I have a feeling. And to me, it feels like like it's coming faster and faster and faster. One thing that I didn't really understand the way I do now, but I remember when Franco was talking about 10 days before the election in America, that at that time as a collective, based on his intel, we hadn't chose were we going to go this direction or that direction. And he explained that we would be, and I told you before, we would be in the same place in 2 to 3 years, which is what a lot of other people were saying. But now I see it, because this path that we chose, it's just so obvious more and more every day. And you see it by these futile attempts to create a picture that's not there, and or to cover up what is.
Yeah.
And it's just like it's going to blow. But I think when it blows, and I mean this more of an energetically, say a period of time, I don't know, maybe weeks, or maybe there's an outage, or what they call it, the grid goes out or whatever. We're also going to be peaking. We're going to be more empowered than ever. And we're going to look at it and go, like a lot of people are doing now. You know, like a lot of people are doing it now.
I agree, mate. I've got this underlying feeling of it building, and it's a building of cautious optimism. That's what I'm going to call it. Cautious optimism. You know, because I've led myself astray with false hopes and expectations and hoping for really big miracles. But do you know what I think might happen is, I think there's a collective big miracle on its way. That's what I feel like, you know, where it's almost like scan disk, defrag, welcome to the new world. Well, what do you mean? There's no templates, there's no nothing, right? Nobody's got any idea, except you've got all these individual unique talents. Start working with them and start helping one another to create a better and more wonderful world, based upon a heart-centered soul flowiness, rather than some tricky devil going on in here, you see. And I think that's what's happening, is our head is being metaphorically decapitated so that we can live just from the heart center. And that, to me, is the soul.
That's what I was telling Morgan that last night. I said, this is going to sound kind of, but I think everybody's going to be eating humble pie every day. And it's going to get to the point where it's okay. It already is okay. Like, it's okay. You know, like, how do we look at a trigger now as opposed to 2 years ago? You know, well, our conversation's here. We would talk about, we're seeing this, we're seeing that. We might do, we might not. But now triggers are considered a gift. And more people are finding that out. I mean, you know, I don't know. I just think the second half of the year is going to be mind blowing. And I may have, you know, delusions of grandeur, but I feel like I'll be physically teleporting within a year and a half, based on this is just me talking about me. So people are pushing the envelope. They're beyond pushing the envelope. They've broken through in the multi streams of our reality, the aspects of our experience as a multidimensional being concentrated in this human incarnation. I mean, people are breaking through all over the world. And I feel like it's just going to take off like wildfire. You know, I really do.
When I was on the drink, Todd, sometimes I got locked up for being drunk and disorderly. And people would say to me, you know, they'd see me come out of, and they'd see me and say, but you seemed so happy yesterday when we were talking to you. And this was the time when I was locked up. No, Todd, I was in the prison cell, and they were saying that they'd talk to me 3 miles away. Right. So how does all that happen? Honestly, and I've not been able to get my head around that, unless that was some sort of translocational real thing that went on. And when you say these things, it's no surprise to me. I do believe that those things are happening. I do believe that if you set the intention from an open heart, right, and then go and lay down and relax with it, you know, I know people who've meditated for years and done all these oobs and out of body experiences, and they can actually go at will and do this astral traveling. You know, I mean, Christ Almighty, the CIA and the FBI have been training people to do this for a long time, where they just basically get them sitting in a chair and then going to read something that's in a sealed cabinet and come back with the information. So you see, they can, once again, Todd, it's a tool, it's a spiritual tool that can be used for positive purpose to benefit mankind or to control mankind. And that's what people have got to try and learn, that if we can use these tools and develop them ourselves, but not for egocentric purposes, for world-centric purposes, then I think that's the way it's going to go forward, you know.
Yeah,
I didn't know I was going to talk about this, but you know, there we go. We always do.
But maybe who knows? I mean, but maybe it's going on all the time anyway, and we're just part of our memory, or part of memory coming back is just being aware of our multidimensional. I talked to a friend yesterday, and I hadn't talked to her in quite a while, and she's been in hibernation for a couple of years. And she was just telling me what a lot of people are saying. But, you know, we had a personal conversation, and so she went into, you know, and I know her. She's not bullshitting me. She's sitting there going, I'm here with you, but I'm also over here walking on the surface of this other planet. And I can, you know what I mean? I mean, this is all coming in. It's not our imagination anymore. And so, and there is a physicality to it. There really is. I mean, and maybe that's what it is. Maybe we're just coming in. Maybe it's just coming into our awareness of what's actually happening anyway. I don't know. But it's getting interesting. All right, brother. Well, it's a good way to start. We might have to start doing this on Sundays.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Bless you all and all that sort of business. Hot diggity doo dah, and bless you, and the Lord is with you, and all that sort of stuff. Todd, I've enjoyed that, mate, and thank you. And hopefully speak to you soon. And next time we'll talk about, is the Earth flat or is it round?
I don't think it's either.
Right, because that seems to be in the air at the moment.
Is it really?
Yeah. Google it.
Google it.